Hi, this is TK. At the tone, leave your name and message, and I'll get back to you.
Hello everybody, Nick Pope here. As Alison correctly says, I withdrew my endorsement for Left at Eastgate some time ago, when I realised that it was based on a fraudulent narrative. Unfortunately, some people dishonestly continue to quote my previous endorsement as part of an increasing desperate attempt to keep the Warren story afloat. I hope that Peter Robbins will find the courage to do the honourable thing and formally withdraw Left at Eastgate in its entirety, taking it off the market, as he must now know that it is based on a factually flawed mixture of testimony stolen from other witnesses, along with out-and-out lies. I think he's an honourable man, who'll do this anyway, but in any case, perhaps he'll be more inclined to do so when he finds out what Warren has been saying about him behind his back. Perhaps someone should ask Peter whether he considered this course of action.
Hi, once again. This is becoming a habit. I'm doing this to respond to Mr. Nick Pope's declaration that my book and Peter Robbins' book, Left at Eastgate, should be removed from publication because of all the fraud and all the this and all the that and this, that, and the other has been dealt with, buried, killed, except for your enemies. You ain't doing nothing right if you don't have an enemy. And I've got my share. But in reality is, to Nick, I've known you a long time. Used to like you. I can't say that anymore. And you probably don't care, and that's cool. No one, including Peter Robbins, will remove Left at Eastgate from publication. I'm the principal author. The book is a true story. The book involves really only one chapter of my life, as it involved the events. And the rest involves family and friends who have known me some over 50 years. So you're calling them liars too. That's a problem, and that should be a problem with any man. I don't see many running around in this field lately. So no, that won't happen. And even should Peter want to, bury any of the work he did, which is very good work, that's up to Peter. The fact that what he compiled are factual information surrounding chapters of things in my life. And Peter's problems right now are his problems. I've addressed these things over and over. If he's not aware of my addressing them, that's also Peter's problem. He's a grown man. He's 14 years older than me. And, he should and he shouldn't. He's made some very strange bedfellows, but we're not here for that. But I can assure you, Nick, that the information that you keep touting, that you have expected nothing. My military record is as solid as it was day one. It was inspected by your pal Charles Holt in person in 1993. When Mr. Robbins was also present, and Bob Exler. Now, as a deputy base commander, he put so much, regard to, and I respect his service as well. Suddenly, he doesn't know authentic military records. I sure don't know military lingo, particularly medical lingo. But I'm getting redundant because I'm not here to defend anything to you, sir. What is going on, and I know that will upset you. you're really not a player in Rendlesham, and I don't think you were at a high school when it happened. But you've sure stuck your bone into it, and and that was great. It helped us an awful lot on our promotion of that book, and I'm grateful for that. We had a lot of laughs back then, and but life changes, things move on. I don't wish you ill, but you've got your audience to entertain, and but you're not accurate. You're not right, and if you were, I wouldn't be here. I'd be living in South America, perhaps. I don't know, where maybe you're not known. I don't know. You might be. I'm sure you probably are. But in reality, no. I'm proud of what I wrote in my book. It is true, well, the best of my knowledge, and stands and has been in print for 20 years. And I don't know of any title you've authored that has stayed in print that long. It's a bit of a record. And again, no one is taking my book out of print unless I do it. And that will be maybe after it's had its run. It is outdated at this clearly at this point, but it is the true history of how the events became public. Now, if you have a problem with that, and I know you get a lot of fees, right, for appearances and endorsements and et cetera, good for you. Take me to court. Show me to be a fraud. In fact, that's for any of you, your pals. Even my ex-co-author, or well, he is my co-author. It's not like a wife, is it? Though at times it felt that way. But so I'm not here to bash, but as they say in New Orleans, you can base it ain't twisted on, man. You got the right ta-ta, but the wrong ho-ho. So no, that ain't going to happen. It looks good on paper, though. I know this fascistic idea, or maybe burning the book would be excellent next. In this subject, in this world we live in, that wouldn't surprise me. It was quite popular in Germany in the 30s. You might want to look into that. Should disturb Peter, that aspect also. So that ain't going to happen, so at all. And I'm happy to debate you in public anywhere. I know I'm supposed to be a dangerous guy and all this stuff, and I'm going to beat everyone up. Well, in reality, I just take you apart, in a debate. You know it, I know it. I take Halt apart. But 37 years since the events happened, my old friend, those opportunities never happen. And with the internet, it gives people the opportunity to type tough, not necessarily type true. And so that's all I got on that aspect. Do you know? Am I forgetting anything? I know I must be.
I think you've covered everything. To be honest, on that aspect, you've said what you need to say.
That's it.
What I would like to talk about is polygraphs. Oh yeah. Well, I did a statement yesterday, and Nick has a lot of influence in the flying saucer world. I'm being funny, folks, because I don't have much regard for. Never did, though, so this is nothing new. In reality, other than they are real. And I know that, Nick, you do, but I've never seen one where you have. You've told me two different things once. But anyway, that was before your career took off. Anyway, so, polygraphs. I've been saying for years that let's go with the public faces of Rendlesham, not the parties that are smart enough to stay away from it, that we should be polygraphed. All these grand television shows that do ridiculous recreations, spend a lot of money on doing them, because most of those programs are simply entertainment shows that any of us witnesses to anything in this phenomenon have been caught up with, any high-profile ones over the years, and probably regretted or said, well, and none of these companies ever have the budget, yet they do. But my suggestion, and I wrote this yesterday on Facebook, is that, get a big production company with a good budget. None of us have to get together in the same room and polygraph us upwards of 3 times. They did it with Travis Walton and his crew, and they all passed, and they did. Now, I've wanted this for years. I've never been polygraphed, but the myth here is I did pass 3 voice stress analysis as conducted by a gentleman named Joe Montaldo. In fact,
Mr. Robbins also was, I don't know why Peter wanted to, but I'm an inclusive guy, and he passed too. Why he had to, I don't know. But so, and Peter, unless he's forgotten that, and that was done by a certain woman that we all know and love, arranged. And this guy was down south. And that exists, that's real. I don't know where it can be seen, but we did pass it, and but a couple others did not. Now, I'm not an expert on this, and it can be argued, and it can be contested. You know, I know in certain courts in the states, they're not admissible, but they are used by law enforcement because I have family in it. And in the end of the day, I am happy to do that. In fact, us Rendlesham, I remember Peniston some years ago, and John and that Woodbridge thing, any of the fees all went to charity. We've all done that, and that was a great thing. And so let any fees, give it to a charity. And polygraph us, and let the questions not come from ufology. Let it come from non-biased journalists that actually have taken the time not to read just a little sentence on Facebook and go, J'accuse. Let us have someone that has, and no bias, maybe even the hardest skeptic, but we're not here to prove if flying saucers were at Bentwaters or time travelers or whatever. We're here to show truthfulness to the best of our ability 37 years later as to what we say happened to each one of us. The big key in this is if such an venture was to get going, which I've been calling for years, is to, and I don't mean just one polygraph. I mean, let's do Halt, let's do me, let's do Jim, let's do John, let's do you, Nick, if you're still there. Let's do you, because, you know, you make a lot of claims and statements. You hook up too. You've got nothing to hide, do you? And let's get us there. Now, the real key, what people be looking for is who's going to show up. Now, I know I would. You know, we have poly examiners in the United Kingdom as well. And I mean on all kinds of questions, not just incident related, personal truthfulness, this, that, and the other. I live my life very open. My book is very open. There's no book in the subject like it. That's why it's still in print. And again, if someone thinks it's fraudulent, take me to court and you prosecute me, but I don't think you're going to be able to do it because I can defend, and I upside and down like a easy chess game. So, but I think the game is, I think a lot of people outside of this very nefarious field, which he always has been, but truly is now via the Facebook, which has given voice to people that should not have voices. Truly believe that. Everyone does, but certain people should not have access to keyboards. And they've contributed nothing to this subject. I know what I've done. I got the Halt memo out. I am the whistleblower. That's the guy from the inside out, not an anonymous guy telling stories in a pub that took great risk. I don't have to qualify that to anyone. Proud I did it. Didn't know it'd turn out like this. My information led to the release of Charles Halt's memo. My trip to Japan in '84 got that Halt tape that everyone knows into my hand, and I immediately turned it over to CNN. That is over 30 years ago I did all that. I gave the list of all the names of the principals. I was back, by the way, if you talk to Chuck DeCare. And now we're not doing other witnesses right now, but how people go one way after 30 years on the record. Now, to all the great researchers out there, when you're not listening to your own pipes, because I've heard y'all for years, well, you should be noticing something. Imagine if I had done a similar thing. I'm not going to name the person, but when you go on a statement of the record to an active police lieutenant via telephone, remember them? Interview. And then you do a letter to a mutual person, who I won't mention, who did put it out, of support, not only of me, but of the events. And then you do a live radio show with 3 witnesses to the events, one who is a co-host of that particular show, and that person goes even further in the supportive thing. Well, a year later, doesn't know who I am. Now, if I was a UFO researcher, whatever that is, I don't know what that is, but if I was one, and there are a few I respect. If I was one, I'd have flags flying right at my butt on that one. I'd be going, ooh, something's up. Well, it's like you, Nick, and I keep coming back to Nick, demanding books be removed and this and that. Well, that book doesn't, and that you didn't want to endorse it. I don't know one thing you haven't endorsed. To me, you're like Elton John. When the World Trade Center fell, I was amazed Elton John wasn't on the smoking wreckage writing a new song about it, like Diana, But you're like that with ufology, and that's cool. That's your gig. That's what you dig, and that's fine. But I actually, after Peter Robbins, he wrote a thing called Deliberate Deception, which is, I believe, free to download on Phenomena magazine, where he actually swept the floor with you, mate. And if Peter now wants to reject that, I don't know if he does. Maybe you're having cocktails together again. Great news. But the written word in the statement, or in Peter's great research, it wasn't probably a great experience in your life, because it did smack your naughty ass. So anyway, with the polygraphs, I do believe, and you are naughty, we should all be polygraphed. And I mean hard. I don't know how it works. CNN is going to do a second follow-up. I've said some things on this already. Some people are going, did it happen? VSA? Yes, they did. MUFON VSA'd me. I've read in the comic book that came out about Holt's life, 21 pages of life, 700 pages of slander, and children's cartoons of flying saucers. Not a way I'd want to be remembered. But, the damnedest thing is that MUFON, years ago, there's a letter that I was voice dressed and failed the part about non-living, non-human beings, whatever you want to call it. And in reality, and I've explained this before, because, I've been around before all of you, even you, Nick, is that there was a guy from MUFON who just expressed an opinion. There was no VSA, to Walt Andrus, saying, since MUFON does not recognize aliens, even though they look at things flying around as if they build themselves, this is true. That's how MUFON was then. And he just decided that part could not be true, because aliens just can't be here, but flying saucers are. You kids work that one out. So I had to live with all these loop-de-loos back then and saying, what have I done? And why did I open my mouth? These people were crazy. I still remain in that camp with a lot of them, but not all. Got great friends. And so anyway, there's that. I'm not here to entertain, though you're probably chuckling. So anyway, at the end of the day, we need to be polygraphed hard by professionals, and it costs money. CNN wanted to do a second UFO special assignment on Bentwaters. The budget was taken away. It had nothing to do with me at all. The budget was removed, but in that, they were going to polygraph a few of us. But and the Connecticut State Police examiner was going to do me, because that's where I live, and they were going to do it. And unfortunately, in '85, that didn't come about. So that's 32 years ago, it didn't come about. But I say, do it. Let's stop doing recreations with Pee Wee Herman playing me and, all this other stuff. Because every one of these programs, there's about 50 versions of the Rendlesham incidents, because that's entertainment. Well, let's do this as not entertainment. Let's keep the examiners, the questionnaires, how the questions are compiled away from the ufologists, except for them to give suggestions and things they're interested in. But make this hardcore, like a criminal investigation. I'm not a criminal. I've never been charged with fraud, suspected, none of that. And I ain't going into that here, but I'm really, these things get people taken to court. Mr. Pope, your thing you wrote yesterday, if I was a millionaire, I'd have you in a court in the States. But it's ufology. There's no accountability. People type whatever they want. But in the end, I will prevail, my friend. And but if away from all that, we do need, because you know what, no one can know what's someone's truth. No one can. But that means a lot to the straights outside this field. And they might even start looking at the events. The real key is, with the first indicator for anyone, will be who will refuse to do it and why. Now, I can imagine Nick saying, I'm not cleared to do that. All my secrets and bullshit. And you have Holt might pull that, and, John and Jim, who knows, but let that get on the table. I know I'd be there or here or wherever they want to do it. And they can do me every time. I will pass. I will pass every time. No problem. But I think it's a great suggestion if ufology wanted to really do something value for a very important series of events that have seemed to now be all about me, which was never my intention. And that's a real shame for the real people that go through these things in an event like that to just be turning into, a Facebook schoolyard kind of game, thing, and that does not make people outside of the subject look in on it with much favor. I can't blame them at all, because in the end, folks, even you, Nick, they think we're nuts, but I won't tell anyone. They think we're nuts. You go down the street, Nick, with your new white hair and all that, looks great. You go down the street and people come up to you, hey, you're the guy on TV, you're a highly recognized guy. But in the end of the day, the average person, I could introduce you because most of my friends in life don't want to know about this. Some of my family not interested in any of it. Believe I went through something. They don't want to get near this stuff. It's a career ender. It's a friend killer. It's and all of you should know how many dinner parties have you attended, Nick, where you're talking to someone and their eyes glass over and they think you're a stone cold wacko and saying, how did he work for the government? But then again, looking at the government, the British government now, well, everyone's working there, I guess. So that's it. That's my suggestion. And I think we should do productive things. I sure have. And I will counter all the bullshit. If I'm wrong on anything, believe me, I'll be the first to say. But I will always be there to go cock-a-doodle-doo. Good day to you, sir.
Okay, well, I think you've put it out there, Larry. So let's hope someone with a bit of money and some contacts maybe get something going.
Well, big production companies can do that. In fact, Nick has contacts. I know he, instead of all this, come to the table and let's start being productive. But that's a brilliant way to go, and I think a lot of people would demand it, not just of me, of everyone, because you got to understand, Travis Walton, who is my hero, gets attacked to this very day as being a snake oil salesman. All these guys lied. They all hate each other. The similar dynamic is in Rendlesham. They turned the people against each other. They turned, non-witnesses who were good, long friends of many decades into people I don't even fucking recognize. But this is how it works for the feds. They love this, man.
That was the final question I was going to put to you is, what's the bigger picture at play here, Larry? Because there's obviously a lot of people, they see a bit of infighting, they see all the guys not getting on, talking 1 minute, keeping quiet the next.
Yeah.
But something seems to be happening of late, something a bit bigger.
Well, I think my theory, my only opinion, because, the feds don't talk to me about it, but once Burroughs and me, because we've never been, even before the events, I didn't know them that well, but, these weren't drinking buddies, John and Jim. I'm not attacking them. And some other guys. One of them was a buddy because I was on flight with him. I think once John and I got together, but then you see, he used me to kind of make Jim look like a clown because they had their falling out. And so I resent that. But then, the federales, and then you have Adrian coming out, and then whatever's happened to that poor guy lately, I don't know. I pray for him, and he's a great guy. And I'll always stand with my 81 guys, before any UFO people. And then you have your telephone ringing. Yep. Is that Nick?
That shows how unprofessional I am. Keep going.
We're not professionals. We just, this isn't a profession. Also, ufology, folks, is not a profession. I know some think it is, but it ain't. And it's all about the witnesses, folks, because you wouldn't have your little soapbox to talk about us on without us. And, thank God for us. You treat us so bad at times. But at the end of the day, you can't have witnesses, too many from something this big, and I know it was that big, coming together in any form, because that is what they can't have it. I mean, how can they keep the cat in the bag? Just like Robert Holtz wrote a beautiful piece about his observation of Colonel Holt. And they're brilliant. And it was, and maybe, the role, lack of emotion. I mean, it was a very emotional event. He doesn't have any, on it. And I do. You can't have this come out. I would have probably, whatever they did to people back then, when no one was looking would have happened, but I got light on me real quick by accident. That's a fact, and there's just too many of us, and now you have fractured relationships. John and Jim, folks, are not pals in any way. Me and them, though I'm looking a little more favorably. And the think tanks that really plan this are slant operations. They're side things. They're not government. Nick, you know what I'm talking about. So when everyone goes after the government, they can actually say, we know nothing. When the front down there that says Walmart, under it is some big freaking operation, they can have this come out. And I think, like Peter always said, it is the bastard subject of this in the last century. It will continue to be. There will be no disclosure. I can trust me on that. The only thing in this field that I see, but they won't allow it. And so these people design psychological programs. They know the failings of each of us. They've had years to study us. They had us under their belt anyway. And they know how to push buttons. And as long as you're keeping us all doing this, and you have internet shills, knowing and unknowing, playing their games. And so you're spending your time defending yourself, not just me, by the way, against total spun out lies. Amazing things. I mean, it's been an amazing 2 years. Education, not a great one, but it's education. And you have all that. They will not allow this to come out. And for a subject where all the fans say, disclosure. I did the real disclosure thing. That highest press attendance in history in 2001. And that's a fact. Well, you know what? It ain't going to happen. The disclosure, if you've experienced it, any form of this, you know it here. You don't know what it is or where it's from. Those are people to run from, too. You don't know what it is, but it has to come here. I know it's there. I'll never know what it's about. Life is short, even shorter now, and you get on with it. This, I have learned in 35 public years in Rendlesham, it will never go anywhere, but I do believe polygraph examinations, the most base human way, will give somebody, some thinking people with heads engaged, not looking at just a headline or this guy hates that guy, let me choose, I don't like his beard, Billy Goat, who called me that lately. It doesn't hurt my feelings, I look like one. And that's the thing that won't happen, is that these people, disclosure, it just won't happen. It comes from within. These are the same people which are so hypocritical. We don't trust the government. They blew up the World Trade Center. They did this. They're up to everything. They're in everything. Maybe they are. Maybe they're not. I don't know. But these are the same people that j'accuse the government and then are awaiting desperately at the edge of their seats for them to tell the fans just what they want to hear. But each person are going to hear different things and all get mad again. And they're never. And are you going to believe this government? You don't believe normally, but when they tell you whatever they want you, remember they said Roswell was crash test dummies that weren't even thrown out of the planes until 1952, years after 47. And yet, the streets, the suits are like, yes, that makes sense to me. It doesn't add up logically, but that works. So I think with Rendlesham, I can't speak for the other events, and we are getting older. Let's see who will rise to the possibility of being polygraphed. And I think it'd be good for each one of us in the end. And I think it'd be very, very insightful for the serious-minded people and non-biased people out there that look at this phenomena and whether you've had anything happen or not and want answers, as we all do. But I'm from the inside out, so it's kind of like I know where I'm at, but it's hard. How can you expect someone to believe you? But I'm not going to have my evidence that I brought to the table and my efforts, which I've never. Look, I'm the only guy in this subject, and I haven't heard them attack this yet, that had his U.S. passport suspended. I think my co-author forgot that because he must have, because Attorney General Ramsey Clark under John F. Kennedy, Lyndon Johnson, and then Nixon, different party, by the way, got it back from me. And it was suspended simply for talking about this. It's never happened to any alleged whistleblower, but it happened to me. It's a real thing. Peter got Clark involved. So all these different allegiances all going weird now, and people just folding to people that I know too much about. is really weird. So yes, something, is afoot. It's much bigger than all of us. I can do, and anyone else, because I'm not the only one that gets this shitstorm, is stand your ground each time, and friendships come and go. I mean, that's life. And but I'm not going to have my family's good name, who lived throughout this, from the before it and after. You read Sue Hickerson's statement about being there when I called my mother. My mother is not able to recall it now because she has dementia. I'm sure they'd find a way to make fun of that also. This is the level that we're dealing with, folks. They would make fun of that. I have seen it, okay, by what they call trolls. I don't do well with that kind of person, but it's all this internet stuff, that's cowardly. They're the AFTRA people with the masks, Antifa with the masks that turns out to be, overweight teenage girls and so-called communists and whatever. They just need slaps on the ass and sent to their rooms. So, but I see a lot of that without the mask. The mask in ufology is now the keyboard. So cowards don't do good in my book, but I think we need polygraphs, and I would be great if look, UFO radio, there's some great hosts out there that have balls. There's a lot of popular ones that have no balls. They let people be slandered, assassinated, turned around like a salad on their programs, and yet they don't invite the person that got slandered and assassinated to come on and have redress. This is the only field, even the Republican and Democrat parties, Tories and Labor, give redress. Not in ufology, baby. There's certain ideologies that must be preserved at any cost. The biggest mistake the subject ever did was let me into it. And I ain't into it, but I did the right thing, and it's done. So polygraph us, all of us, soon.
Okay. That's brilliant. Nice one, Larry. Have you got anything else left to say in a short segment to the people that might be watching this?
Well, is there any holidays coming up? No. No, I mean, it's just a messy gig. I appreciate all my support and all my friends, real ones. You learn things in life. And the beat goes on. But, there's more to life than all this, too. I don't live my life in ufology. And the idea is to wear me out where I'll go, oh, enough of this, and just run off and become a beautician, which was always my dream, to be honest with you. I'm kidding. You got to laugh here. They'll say, see, he was going to be a hairdresser. He's just a failed hair artist. But in the end, that's it could have been one. I don't know. Curlers and all. But no, I think it's, there's more to life than this. And I'm pretty, they want to wear you out. I'm not a wear out kind of guy. But it's, we got families to raise, even my enemies. And, if I am not at your cup of tea, as I read, move on and start character assassinating someone else. There's plenty of them to go for. And otherwise, because their words are just so hollow, they fall. We've seen them fall already on the fun, please, the 600 ganja bag or whatever. So, if I live long enough, I've never seen enough of this stuff. Fascinating.
And a final word to Nick?
Nick, you need a haircut. And I say that as an old friend. It's to Einstein, and you're not. Blessings to you and your family.
Nice one, Larry. Okay, mate. We'll catch up soon, yeah?
I am a hairdresser, see?
You take care. Speak to you later, mate.
Thank you, my friend.
Bye for now.
For redress, baby.
No problem.
I look like shit on this. Thank you.